All right. So we are recording. In the meantime, or if you give me a second, I need to get over here and pull up your lab. Lab 7. And then once I have your lab pulled up, then I will share my screen. Um, Please excuse all the noise in the background. My daughter was throwing up and she's sick, so I'm home for the day. So my office hours are actually my home office hours, and because of that, there's a lot of regular old home noises in the background. Uh, let's see here. Sorry for the wait. There we go. Lab 7. All right. All right. All right. All right. And I think I have it pulled up. So let me share it. Lab 7, renewable energy. There's that. All right. We are now looking at your lab. Can you see your lab on my screen or on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I loved it. I love the fact that you provided reasonings behind your hypotheses, because you don't have to. You could just say whichever you want. So that was great, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to, especially like record like we are, maybe learn and have your classmates learn, or your future classmates. So we're talking about overall the consumption of renewable energy. Has it increased, decreased, remained the same? And you said the rise of new technology basically means that renewable energy has increased. I was wondering, and if you can't, that's fine. But I was wondering if you had something in mind when you said new technology. Like, what did you mean by new technology?
Like in relation to renewable energy.
Okay.
Um,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, just basically like throughout the years with like new like scientific technology and stuff, I I don't know how to put it into words, but it kind of made me think of the concept of it kind of like not it would kind of increase the consumption of renewable resources, maybe because it takes renewable resources with the new technology to generate how it should work efficiently.
I think I
Which,
got you. Okay. You mean, like, for example, how solar power has become, as technology increases, it's become more affordable and also um, more useful, right? Because it
yeah,
produces more than it used to, and it's easier to store it and all that. Okay, so good. That's what I thought you meant. I just wanted to clarify, um, because you never know. It could. I've seen some answers, not on that part, but I've seen some answers on the other part of the lab where people said, with new technology and people using more electronics, then we would see an increase. And I'm like, well, not necessarily with renewable, because here I live in Scott Depot, right across, or right down the road from John Amos, and the more goodies, the more electronics I get and use, the more coal I'm using. So
right.
yeah. So all right, that was good. Okay, let's see. Based on here's another one. So you said geothermal. Your hypothesis was that it decreased. That was actually my hypothesis too. It changes every year, obviously, but and can you expound on that? Do you mean like based on global warming? Are you saying that maybe geothermal decreasing has caused the global warming, or are you saying based on the global warming that you were seeing that would make you guess that geothermal has decreased?
Just like the based off of like how global warming fluctuates a lot, it would, whether it be increase or decrease the consumption, it would, my basis was like off of like where global warming was at that point in time,
Gotcha. Okay.
if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah, it does a little bit. And again, I'm just like that we can have this conversation because it adds to the learning experience. Because everything you've done, I want to point out again, if anybody ever watches this video, that you didn't even have to provide explanations for your hypotheses. You just had to put them. So you went above and beyond. All right. Due to more hydro plants, the plant has increased. Actually, you know what? It's funny that we're looking at this. I would have normally have marked question 3 wrong, because
No,
that's a mistake I see a lot, where it'd be like, where it says, "Why do you think this has increased?" But your answer was because it's increased, basically. So it's sort of like that old joke where, like, I think this football. What do you think this football team needs to do to win this game? And they say, well, score more points, right?
Yeah.
You kind of gave the same answer there. So you're saying more plants increase because there's more plants. So I won't even talk about that one. I'll just point that out that, normally I would have counted that wrong, but I missed it. So there we go. But that is a good time I'm just glad we said that on this video, because again, a lot of people made that mistake later in the lab where it's like, why do you think solar energy saw such a big increase? One of those later questions. And then their answer was because it's being used more. I'm like, yes, I know. You just said the same thing. But anyway, moving forward, during the past 3 years, blah, 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 new discoveries has identified solar energy, but not enough ways to store it, convert it, so it's remained the same. Okay, I think I understand what you're saying here. You're like kind of going back to that first question. So technology's improved, but not enough to where it would increase or decrease, right? So it's not decreasing because technology's improved, but things haven't improved enough to where you would expect to see an increase. Am I understanding you correctly on that one?
Yeah. And I think my other thought process on that one was, I'm trying to remember. But I think kind of like my thought process on the solar energy part was, when I was doing research, like I read how it's kind of like complicated for them to find ways to actually to convert it. So if there was an increase, I wouldn't think there would be much of an increase because
Gotcha.
it's not. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. 5 there's nothing to talk about there because there wasn't an explanation. Let's see. 6, regarding climate change, wind energy in the U.S. has stayed the same. Is that sort of like the same thing that you were saying with number 2?
Yeah. With the global warming.
Okay. So there's not much else to say about that. Well, I mean, I'll ask you, might as well while we're here, and you don't have to answer if you don't have an answer off the top of your head. But do you have a reasoning? Again, you don't have to, but did you have a reasoning why you think biomass maybe have stayed the same, didn't increase, didn't decrease?
I don't know. No, not really. And the reason why that is because every time I talk about biomass, I have to actually look up like what it is, to be honest.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. So it's like one of those things you've not really heard of. So can't really have a good hypothesis one way or the other if you're not really familiar with it. So that makes sense. All right. Let's see. Hydropower has the largest increase. Wind energy has you actually did yourself a favor here. Some people lost points. Of all the renewable energy sources considered in this lab, blah, 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 what do you think had the largest decrease or increased the least? And it stinks, but people got a little bit too specific and they lost points because they might say wind energy increased the least right here, but then over here they would have said wind energy decreased, in which case they would lose points because those two things don't match up. So you did good. You did good, oddly enough, by not being too specific there. But anyway, Moving forward. This is good too. A lot of people miss this. It said to put in the dates, and that's important because for me to grade it, to know which dates we're working with. So I'm glad you put the dates in. And let me ask you this. Why would we look at 3 years? Why not just look at the most recent year? Why do you think we're looking at 3 years of data?
I think to have like the most beneficial data and outcomes and statistics that people like to see, it's better to have it in like a few year range instead of just looking at 1 year, because they can't really see the change in all the different things within 1 year.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and especially like if you look at hydropower and wind, right? And solar too. Those are such large numbers. It's kind of hard to compare that with geothermal and biomass because those are such small numbers.
Yeah.
So it's important anytime, whether not just in science, but if you're talking about data, it's important to look at trends too, not just like a snapshot. Because if you were looking at this, let's see, you would say wind. If you were just looking at 2022, right, you would say wind is obviously more used than anything else. And according to this data, yes, wind is being more used than anything else on this chart. But if you're looking at the trends, solar is, according to this data, solar is making a bigger not improvements, but excuse me, I can't think today. Solar is increasing at a higher pace, right? So trends are so important. You can't just look at a snapshot. The more data you have, the better. As a matter of fact, if this wasn't a 100 level class, I would probably have you guys do more than just 3 years, so you could see more of a trend and tell a story. But
Yeah.
also, and I wish I had a good graph to demonstrate this for the people watching the video and for you, maybe in the past 3 years, which is what we're looking at here, maybe conventional hydropower has a little dip, right? But think about, like, I don't know, stock prices or something. And if you were to look at maybe a decade or 2 decades, and I'm not saying this is the case, but just using this as an example, maybe only in these 3 years has there been a little dip. Maybe beyond that, it's always been just like a steady growth. And it probably
Right.
had. I'm just saying that's why the more data you have, the better. And I just wanted to point that out because that is more important, in my opinion, than anything you learn about biology or the environment. Because as a college educated citizen, you should be a critical thinker. Those are the kind of things you should think about. Like, give me more data. What's the big story? But anyway, oh yeah, this was a common mistake. It's just a 2-part question. All these are 2-part questions, and you only did it on the one. Luckily, you said so you say correct or incorrect. So there's nothing to even talk about with that. But of course, just to remind you, you can still fix that and turn it back in for partial credit.
Okay.
Or, well, it's too late for this one, but I guess with the next lab, anytime you turn it in for corrections, as long as it's before the due date, you can get full credit. But all right. And then this one too, you made a common mistake on this one. These 2 questions, it's a guess or look it up, but you have to say which one, and you just didn't say which one.
Oh, okay. I see that.
And then your reasoning, I like that. There's nothing much to say about that. Nothing much to say about that. Okay, and I loved your answer for 21 because it actually made sense. You think Americans are using more energy overall, but you also believe that Americans are trying to use more renewable energy. Some people, I think, just missed the point of this question. And again, they gave me that football answer. Like, do you think we're using more renewable energy or more renewable energy, or energy overall? And they would say, well, energy overall. Oh, wait, no. I'm trying to think of the most common mistake I saw on this one, just since we're recording. I know you didn't make the mistake, but something about, actually, you know what? I won't even waste your time with it because hopefully one of those other students will ask for the feedback and I can actually talk to them.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
This graph.
No, it's not that bad. I see where you were going. But this is a common mistake that I've seen, and it's not a bad mistake, but I am nitpicky because I do allow you to fix your mistakes. Your usage of renewable energy, that is fine, but you just needed to be more specific. So,
Okay.
oh, wait, no. Ooh, here we go. I see now. That, I think, was my mistake. So we can see the years. Okay, so I need to erase this. No, shoot. I see what I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I've been
It's okay.
working through grading today because as I do on Mondays. Okay, so the problem was, even though I can see right here on the x-axis the numbers,
Mm-hmm.
the x-axis and the title don't indicate what the numbers are.
Okay.
So, I mean, I know it's like kilowatt hours, but yeah. So you just had to be more specific. And also, technically, the graph should have been flipped the other way with the y.
Yeah.
And this is a good time to point this out, not to you and to anybody watching the video. That in itself is not a big deal. Like, as long as your graph gets the point across, who cares? But this is that small part of this course where it's not just about teaching you about biology and teaching you about the environment. It's also trying to get you ready for the real world and get you, as a college educated student, it's important that you follow details to the T and, notice small things like that. But it is a small thing and you didn't lose many points for it and you can still fix it. So anyway, that's that. So any questions about anything that we've talked about?
No, I actually like the feedback because I've always struggled in science. It's been one of my weak points. But this semester, I found myself being more involved, and you've made it a lot easier for me to catch on. And that's why I like the feedback because it's one of my weak points for sure.
Well, great. I'm glad it's helped. Yeah. So if you want, like I said earlier, you can go in and make your corrections for partial credit. And then when you're done with that, or if you don't want to, send me an email and remind me we had this so I can boost your grade since we did the meeting.
Okay, and
So
that's
either way, send me an email to remind me before or after you make corrections, or whichever.
like, do I send it in like a separate email?
No, it doesn't. You can reply to the old one or start a new one. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want.
Okay.
Case, sometimes it does matter, but no, good question. In this case, it doesn't matter.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope you feel better.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.